Today we're starting lesson 2.6, which is graphing in 4 quadrants. So I wanted to show you the graph, and there's 2 points graphed on this. You have point K and you have point M, but you also want to know that there are 4 quadrants, and we start in the positive quadrant, which means that the X values and the Y values are both positive. So that's going to give us a positive ordered pair, and that's quadrant 1, which is here. Sometimes they use Roman numerals, which the 1 for Roman numerals looks like an I. So that's quadrant 1, and then we're going to go counterclockwise, which is the other way around the clock, to indicate the next 3 quadrants. And I'm doing them all in Roman numerals so that you can see what they mean. So this is 1 in this place, then you have 2, 3, 4. And each quadrant has ordered pairs. The first quadrant, like I said, has all positive ordered pairs, so the X and the Y are both positive. That's what I mean by the plus signs there. Then if you go to quadrant 2, you have a positive Y value, but you have a negative X coordinate, so the ordered pair looks like that. Quadrant 3 is all negative, so the negative X coordinate and negative Y coordinate. And quadrant 4 is a negative Y coordinate but a positive X coordinate. So if we look at point M, we need to tell me what point M is. Now notice point M is on the axis, and that is actually the Y axis. So if it is on the Y axis, that means that X, or the X coordinate for the point, has to be 0. So M would be 0, and then we need to look at where it is on the y-axis. It is up 5, so 0, 5 is the point. Then we go back to K. K is over here, and that is, if you count over on the x-axis, which is here, that would be over negative 5 and up 2, positive 2. So that is going to be my ordered pair, negative 5, comma 2. Now here, and I've shown you another graph where the quadrants are labeled down here, but it says graph and label each point on a coordinate plane. Name the quadrant in which each point lies. So here are the list of points. If I were to graph 4, negative 3, Four is the X coordinate, so that's going to go with the X number. Let's see. And then, so I'm going to go over 4 on the x-axis, and then I'm going to go down 3 on the y-axis. So that indicates there should be a point right here for H. And that quadrant is, if you count, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's quadrant 4. And then we're going to graph the next one. And that is going to be over to the left 1, because our X value is negative 1, and up 4 on the y-axis, which is about here. So I label that as I, and again, if I count my quadrants, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to be in the second quadrant. And then the last point is 0, negative 2. So that will be on the y-axis, because we talked about when x is 0, it's on the y-axis, and when y is 0, it's on the x-axis. So if I were to draw I go nowhere on the x-axis that indicates the 0, and then I'm going to go down 2 on the y-axis, which is the -2. So this is actually not in a quadrant. We would just put that it's on the y-axis, if that's the case. And then we have one more example. This is talking about the sum of 2 golf scores, and it's saying the sum is 3. So if x represents one score and y represents the other score, make a function table of possible values for x and y. So this is kind of up to you, but if we were to make a function table here, it says x represents one score and y represents the other score. Our third column has to equal 3 every time. So we basically need numbers that add up to be 3. So you could do 1 and 2. You could do -1 and 4. Okay, as long as they add up to be 3. We could go on for a while here. You could have 0 and 3. You could have 3 and negative, or actually 0 would work. Okay, so all this column is your score of 3, and they wanted you to make a table of values that add up to be 3, and then graph those table of values. So what we're going to do is graph. For the first one, you graph 1, 2, you graph -1, 4, 0, 3, and 3, 0. Let's see, did it say a certain amount of values? No, but let's just keep it with 4. And we're going to graph these 4 ordered pairs then. So we have 1, 2, -1, 4, 0, 3, and 3, 0. So 3, 0 would have to be here. 0, 3 would be on the other axis. Then you have 1, 2 right here, and -1, 4. Notice also I made a function table of values, so since it's a function table and I have the same 2 numbers equaling the sum of 3, notice that our numbers, no matter how many there are going to make a straight line when I graph them, because a function makes a pattern on your graph. And that concludes lesson 2.6.